been what Aaron Rodgers wanted. Just to get back to practice, to have the best rehab he could possibly get. When he told some of his friends, I want to be out in the field, all positive, especially if they're not going to put him in any position to re-tear it.
Aaron Rodgers just made a remarkable decision, one that we've never seen before in NFL history or in any sport in the history of mankind. So before we get to the content, make sure you drop like, subscribe, and turn on our notifications to help the channel grow. Now that we get all that out of the way, break! Today's video is sponsored by my favorite new mobile game, Football Head Coach. Football Head Coach is a NFLPA licensed game with real players, and it allows you to manage the day-to-day grind of being a football head coach. And as you can see here, from the very beginning, my team stinks. So we're gonna open up some packs to improve them. And bro, we get some bangers in these packs. Right away, I get Odell Beckham Jr. with Dak Prescott. Then I get Jake Ferguson. All of a sudden, we're getting ourselves some good role players, and we're building ourselves a team, but our formations are lacking. You see, when you're a football head coach, you need to not only figure out how to improve your roster, you also need to be aware of the right scheme for the players in your roster. I mean, the attention to detail in this game is absolutely insane. Once you get your team together, you face off against real opponents in a simulated game. And as you can see from the very beginning, my team actually claps, scoring a touchdown right off the bat from Ty Chandler before getting a signature cowboy moment where Dak Prescott finds Jake Ferguson in the end zone for a touchdown. I decided to simulate till the end of this game because enough was enough, and I found out that I beat this man 70-11. Probably means that I'm ready to try out for the NFL. Football Head Coach is absolutely free to play. Just scan the QR code on your screen. And thank you, Football Head Coach, for the sponsor. Mic check 1 2 1 2. What's going on, everybody? The beauty of every single sport that there's ever been available to us, from basketball to football to baseball to hockey to the MMA to cricket to pickleball, is the fact that there's volatility involved. There's chaos involved. And there's no team that the term chaos applies to more than the New York Jets, who went all in on their remarkable young core that featured the defending Offensive Rookie of the Year and Defensive Rookie of the Year. The New York Jets seem to have solved all of their problems from years past. Zach Wilson needed some time to develop. Well, get him his favorite quarterback that he looked up to as a kid to start over him. So the New York Jets would trade for Aaron Rodgers. And with Aaron Rodgers came a gigantic change in culture. They brought in a bunch of people that Aaron Rodgers was a huge fan of, such as Allen Lazard, Billy Turner, Randall Cobb, Tim Boyle, and when Aaron Rodgers pushed for Dalvin Cook, despite the New York Jets having Breece Hall, although he was returning from a torn ACL, they signed Dalvin Cook. But most importantly, they brought in Nathaniel Hackett, a man that Aaron Rodgers once said this about.
Yeah, I mean, look, that's the number one thing. There's nobody in the building that brings me more joy or is more fun to be around than Nathaniel Hackett. You know, we got some great guys, some guys I've enjoyed playing with for a long time. I knew based on his friendship with AVP, Alex Van Pelt, that we were going to be friends just because Alex is such a great dude and him and I had such a great friendship. I just knew Hack and I were going to bond. But he's become, such a close confidant and friend, besides a fantastic coach. And I just really, really can't express enough how important he is to our team in so many ways. He's incredible in front of a room. He brings a lot of great energy that's really important to not just meetings that can sometimes, without the energy he infuses, maybe get long at times. Never feels that way with him in front of the room. But Hack has really embraced the idea of celebration together as well, which I think is such a vital part of us coming together and being a close-knit group. I think he's got a great mind. Hack has been a really important part of our culture change and a part of our success on offense. I love him. Hope he doesn't go anywhere. Unless I do.
And so far, Allen Lazard has been a healthy scratch. Billy Turner has been terrible on the offensive line. Randall Cobb has 3 receptions on 12 targets for 20 yards. Tim Boyle is one of the worst quarterbacks in football history. And Dalvin Cook averages 3 yards per carry. And that's before we get to Nathaniel Hackett, who's been criticized for his inability to manage games and for his play calling. And maybe things would have been different if Aaron Rodgers didn't tear his Achilles in week 1 of this NFL season. The original plan was Zach Zach Wilson was supposed to sit back and learn from Aaron Rodgers, but he was once again thrust into the spotlight immediately in the same exact situation he was in before, with limited knowledge of the playbook and a brand new offensive coordinator who was just coming off of a season where it looked like he ruined Russell Wilson's career. But Zach Wilson's mission was clear. Somehow, some way, he needed to put the New York Jets in a situation where they can compete once Aaron Rodgers returns, which in of itself is a remarkable achievement. I mean, to give you an idea, Kevin Durant tore his Achilles tendon in the 2019 NBA Finals. It took him 18 months to recover. Aaron Rodgers tore his Achilles tendon in week 1, and it looks like he's about to come back. But unfortunately, it looks like Zach Wilson wasn't really able to fulfill his mission, and I don't really think it was a fair mission to him to begin with. In week 1, Zach Wilson performed decently enough for the Jets to beat the Buffalo Bills, but then he would lose to the Dallas Cowboys and New England Patriots before having a signature game versus the Kansas City Chiefs, where he would still lose 20-23. But in this game, Zach Wilson flashed his potential, completing 72% of his passes, throwing for over 245 yards, 2 touchdowns, and he did it against one of the top defenses in the NFL. He would follow that up with very impressive victories over the resurging Denver Broncos, the previously undefeated Philadelphia Eagles, and to this day, he is the only player that was able to defeat the Philadelphia Eagles, and then the New York Giants. Following this, the New York Jets would lose 3 games, and they decided to bench Zach Wilson for the last one. To be honest, I don't think it's fair to blame Zach Wilson for this because the situation he was placed in was terrible. The New York Jets have one of the worst offensive lines in the NFL. There's a reason why Aaron Rodgers tore his Achilles to begin with. I don't necessarily know if I'm ready to write off Zach Wilson, but it seems like at this point, the New York Jets are desperate for any semblance of success. Now, Robert Saleh and his coaching staff were told that they have job stability given how tumultuous the season has been, but even more impressively, Aaron Rodgers is set to return, which I cannot express enough how incredible of an achievement this is. According to Ian Rappaport, the New York Jets just opened the practice window for quarterback Aaron Rodgers. Now, this is insanity. I mean, he tore his Achilles tendon 79 days ago, and today, Jets head coach Robert Saleh said that Aaron Rodgers has been cleared for functional football activity. Before we get too excited, Robert Saleh cautioned that this is just a step in Aaron Rodgers' rehab because he was cleared for football activities, and he adds Aaron is not going to do anything that puts himself in harm's way. And with all due respect to the New York Jets, I think any QB that gets behind that offensive line is going to be put in harm's way. We even got some footage of Aaron Rodgers getting back onto the practice field, and he looks really good. I mean, this is still mind-blowing to me. Prior to this, the record for returning from an Achilles injury was Cam Akers during the 2021 season, which Cam Akers also recently tore his Achilles again. So hopefully he's able to recover from that relatively soon. But there's one problem with this incredible story. As remarkable of an achievement that it is to see Aaron Rodgers returning after this freak injury that destroyed the New York Jets season, the Jets have a huge problem. And I don't want to say it's completely bleak for the New York Jets. Right now, there's 5 games remaining in the regular season. The New York Jets currently have a 4-7 record. They're currently on a 4-game losing streak. It's almost impossible for them to win out the AFC East, which features the Miami Dolphins and the Buffalo Bills, which luckily for them, the Buffalo Bills have not been performing up to the standards that I placed on them. Say if you look at the AFC playoff picture as of right now, it's not necessarily a weak playoff picture. The only way that they could sneak in is if the Miami Dolphins lose a majority of their games and they win the division somehow. And to be honest, I find that to be very far-fetched. I mean, the Dolphins have some difficult opponents in the form of the Dallas Cowboys, Baltimore Ravens, and I guess the Buffalo Bills coming up. And there is a narrative about the Dolphins not being able to defeat any challenging teams, which as much as I love watching this offense play football, it is kind of true. I can see a world where the Dolphins lose 4 of their next 6 games, and this is me being very generous, by the way. But even with that, the New York Jets would have to win out the rest of their game. So they have to face off against the Atlanta Falcons, then the Houston Texans, then the Miami Dolphins. And it really depends on the exact time that Aaron Rodgers returns if they want to make a playoff run. They have a huge game against the Cleveland Browns as well that could definitely affect the wild card picture. But currently, the odds of the New York Jets making a playoff run is less than 1% according to ESPN analytics. I don't want to sound like a negative person. I want Aaron Rodgers in the playoffs more than anyone else. Are you serious? I mean, the Buffalo Bills are regressing. Joe Burrow's out for the year, so there's no chance that Joe Burrow is going to be in the playoffs this year, which also sucks because there's going to be a pretty sizable cap hit next year for the Cincinnati Bengals. But there's also a chance that Josh Allen isn't going to make it to the playoffs either. And then on top of that, we got robbed of a full Aaron Rodgers season with the New York Jets. I hope he's able to pull it off. I'm just trying to say that it's very unlikely. I mean, if you look at these rankings, you got to make it to the top 7 to make it in. And currently, they're behind the Houston Texans, Denver Broncos, Buffalo Bills, Cincinnati Bengals, Las Vegas Raiders, LA Chargers, and Tennessee Titans. So hopefully Aaron Rodgers is able to come back and some things go their way, and somehow, some way, they're able to make it into the playoffs, but they literally have the second worst odds in the AFC to make it into the playoffs. This could be all for nothing, but I guess the bright side here is shout out to Joe Douglas for at least putting protections on the draft pick that the Jets sent to the Green Bay Packers, because that could have potentially been a free top 10 pick depending on how the rest of their season goes. Either way, it'll be a lot of fun to see how the New York Jets perform with Aaron Rodgers under center. I'm happy he's healthy, and I just hope he doesn't put himself in harm's way, because if he potentially re-aggravates that Achilles injury, or if the New York Jets have no hopes of making it into the playoffs at all whatsoever, I think it might be better for him to rest. But at the same time, I guess it's really cool to have the opportunity to make sports history, not only NFL history, by returning from an Achilles tear that quickly. Let me know in the comment section down below, especially if you're a Jets fan. How do you feel about Aaron Rodgers returning? Are you kind of bummed out that he might be returning for no reason? Or do you think that there's a chance that something can happen and you potentially make it into the playoffs? Would you rather that he rests for the rest of the season and you guys could play for a higher draft pick? Maybe you could trade up and get Ollie Fashanu, which you guys desperately need. I like to hear what you have to say. Aside from that, I'm your boy Mike, and I'm dropping our mic until our next upload.